bruised and beaten, until I could finally keep up with them and was more masterful in the technical downhill. Bret was my biggest cheerleader, encouraging me to race in the local bike series, which ultimately led me to a brief but highlighted race in the 1994 Mountain Bike World Championships. Bret was the first person to take me to one of my favorite places on earth, Moab, Utah. I will never forget riding on a ferry e-bikes with no suspension on the infamous Slick Rock Trail and thinking, I am surely going to crash and die. But I survived with Bret's continued enthusiasm and encouragement, and that was the beginning of many of a story of possible sketchy, near-death, but fun-filled adventures that we had. I think Bret's most favorite outdoor passion was rock climbing. I never saw him happier or smile more than when he was on the rock. The many adventures he could not wait to plan to yet another great climbing spot. It was more than just the climbing for him. It was the whole experience. Planning a trip with his friends, long road trips with great music playing on the radio, hilarious conversations on the road and on the approach to every new climbing crag. We all shared in Bret's own hilarious vocabulary. He made up words for things that just made you laugh out loud. As the years went on, Bret blended his vernacular from his cycling, climbing, skiing, and quirky life experiences into his vocabulary. And let's not forget the funny nicknames he had for all his favorite friends. After moving from Vail, Bret made Boulder his home while he went back to school to become a teacher. His love for the mountain lifestyle was still a big part of his heart and found himself working on weekends in Vail while going to school. He loved it. He could couch surf with his various friends, and most evenings after work, he would finish with a snack and a fine glass of wine at the Sweet Basil Bar where I was working at the time, be joined by his good friend Jerry Weiss and others. This is where the stars aligned for my two good friends, Kathleen Waller and Bret Fishman. I was honored. I was to be a conduit to a love story in the making. Only 11 months later, he called me up and wanted to show me the ring he had designed with his friend Jeff Cavan, and the proposal plans he had put so much thought into, a hot air balloon ride over the Napa Valley to commit to the love of his life. Okay, before I get to lose it. Bret could not wait to be a dad. The unconditional love he gave to all his friends was magnified in his love for his two beautiful daughters, Amy and Zoe. He loved every minute of sharing his curiosity and love of adventure with them, watching them grow and teaching them the joys of life as he had with all of his friends. He loved and lived for his girls. Let's take a deep breath now. My friend, our friend, Bret, was the best and most treasured kind of friend you could ever have. He loved and cared for all his friends and family unconditionally and could not wait to share a great adventure with them. He was loyal, kind, funny, and he loved to create with others. Bret had a wonderful sense of curiosity and adventure for everything. He loved great food, wine, jazz music, and art, and he taught it all to me too. My life would not be what it is today without everything that my friend Bret taught me and gave to me. I will forever be grateful for the beauty that Bret brought to my world and all of us that are here today that love him too. So to answer the question, what is a life well lived? It is to give your joy and unconditional love to others, to make a positive and meaningful and impactful difference in others' lives, So whenever I think of Bret Fishman, I know my heart will be filled with joy and love, and I will forever smile with him. Bret was a teacher. Let his life be the ultimate lesson for us all. Life is so short and precious. It goes by fast, and Bret's life was over far too soon. So, his final lesson for us all: give the hugs. Tell those you love them how much they've given to you, what they mean to you, and don't wait. Practice kindness and forgiveness. Go on the adventure, smile, laugh, and always continue to grow and be curious with love. To my friend Bret.
Gotta find my eyeglasses too. Well, I also just want to start with Rabbi and Anna. You guys have said so much that represents so much of what I feel and learned about Bret, carry with me going forward from Bret. I have to say about Bret, and although there's the sadness that we alluded to, I can't help but take comfort in thinking of how sad it would be if we never had Bret in our lives. Because everything that was said about his joy and his love and his adventure is so true. So we'll give this a go. When we look back across our lives and at our younger selves, we can often see a few versions of ourselves. And we hopefully have come across some people that we met who we really connected with. And if we're lucky, we find a few people who can also teach us something while sharing some adrenaline, some serious questioning of our collective judgment about which we're about to embark on an activity together and go ahead and do it anyway. And above all, share some really good belly laughs. I didn't know Bret when he was in high school or college. I met Bret not long after Anna when I was making a sales call to Banner Sports 30 plus years ago up in Vail. From our first exchange, I appreciated Bret's open and friendly way of being and his authentic and witty character. I knew right away this is someone that would be a friend if it ever worked out that way. With what I came to know about Bret over the last 30 years as a friend and as a co-worker was that he was one of those folks who was always himself. Bret was Bret. And over the years, with the small but often profound modifications that come with living longer years, becoming a husband and a partner, becoming a father, he was always Bret. Now, we all know that Bret had some hairstyles and some fashion choices. It might have left a little bit of doubt in retrospect, but all of us that were old enough to clothe ourselves and pick our haircuts during the 80s lived that just as well. So no harm, no foul. We all knew Bret in our own ways, and we each have those ingrained memories of Bret, whether it's climbing, skiing, listening to music, having a conversation, feeling better about yourself, just having him listen to you, sharing some funny observations. But I wanted to, I think, speak about the overarching nature of Bret that made him such a wonderful individual. And it's been alluded to in the remarks that were made so far. But there's a few words that I just wanted to reemphasize. Positive. All of us who knew Bret knew that he was perpetually predisposed to positivity. And hopefully he appreciated that alliteration because Bret liked language. Bret was a positive guy. He tried to find the best in the situation and he focused on that. He did not ignore what was wrong, what was not so good, or what truly sucked, but he didn't dwell on that. He found a way to move on and he tried to deal with a smile. And that was never more apparent than since his diagnosis and just the bleak news that he had of what he had to deal with going forward. He kept smiling. He stayed positive. Bret was also what I would consider to be unflappable. Like any of us, Bret had moments of stress, but generally speaking, he kept his calm pretty darn well. Example of this goes back to his wedding. We are getting ready, getting dressed to go out there. And in true Bret fashion, all of the folks in the groom's party descended a little section of trail on our mountain bikes in our tuxedos to the wedding service, which was perfect. And all of a sudden, Howard, Bret's brother, puts on his tuxedo and goes like that. And both of the sleeves rip right off. Now, there's obviously a bit of humor in this family. And Bret, unlike myself in that situation, I think I would have started freaking out. He just calmly looked over and he's, Howard, come on, man, get your real jacket. Because deep down, he appreciated the humor and knew that that was actually an old, like, high school prom tuxedo that he had ripped some of the sewing out of so that he would lighten the mood of any pre-wedding jitters. And I think it worked. And he obviously learned from that. And we'll touch on that in a minute when we get to something that happened with Bret at my wedding. Loving. Anyone who knows Bret, loving comes to mind near the top of the list. He had a huge heart. He was a very loving person, loving of adventure, loving of the outdoors, loving of his family, loving of his daughters, loving of his wife, his dad, his brother, and loving of anyone that needed it. You just felt that whenever you spent time with Bret. Spent, I guess I can spell it too, but he loved his family so much. You guys were so important to him and gave him so much joy. So proud of you guys. It was just wonderful to listen to him share all of the things that you guys were going through with such pride and the glow of love. Bret was also, as we know, very funny and clever and creative. He had an amazing way of commenting on things that was so damn funny that my sides hurt a lot of the time that we spent together. He was so creative with his artwork and his cooking and just ways of expressing himself. And his sly sense of humor appeared again as one of the members in my groom's party at my wedding. And I didn't realize that Bret was behind this till after the wedding, but then it made perfect sense. As I turned to my brother, who was my best man, and asked him for the wedding rings. And by the way, my brother had forgotten his shirt. So this was all the better. And luckily there was another wedding party guest who was over prepared and had an extra. So my brother did not look like a Chippendales guy up there. They immediately, my brother turned to Bret, whispered in his ear while doing this, and then Bret patted himself down, and then it went down the line and came back up. And here I am sitting here going, great. No ring, no shirt. And of course, Bret had staged that entire thing. I found out afterwards, which I thought was an excellent joke. Bret also had some great expressions and words. Sketchy, Anna mentioned. That's been in my lexicon ever since then, and it is apropos of so many different situations. But I also want to bring out a couple other ones that have become part of my verbiage. And, you know, like good luggage, these are things that we can take with us and use over and over again. So I want you guys to try and use the terms Jingus and Janky as you go forward. Where they came from, Bret, only you know, but they were good ones. And I think I got the definitions more or less correct. Jingus, and spell it Jinghus, because that seems maybe a little European. It's like bogus, not legit, extremely questionable. So feel free at some point to try and use it in a sentence. Janky, that's a Janki, if you ever want to spell it. I don't think spell check recognizes it, but who knows? That basically means cheap, not of quality, to the point of being a ripoff. So you want to avoid purchasing janky items, especially if they don't have a warranty. But I do think that having been so fortunate to spend a good bit of time with Bret since his initial diagnosis and surgery, the two words that stand out to me the most as to how I would describe Bret are strength and grace. And these are inspirational characteristics that showed through in some pretty damn hard times. After being kicked in the gut over and over with this cancer, Bret always showed a deep strength to keep moving forward with his situation as best he could. Bret never felt sorry for himself, and he never gave in against the long odds that he faced. Within just a few weeks of having brain surgery, he had progressed from walking around outside to fresh air and getting exercise to going back out on his bike again. And not long after that, he was back in the gym, lifting weights within doctor's limits, always having to remind him he wanted to do more. But he listened and he understood and he stayed right after it. And it was clear that this gave him a feeling of normalcy and a good energy, as these were such immense passions of his throughout his entire life. To be out there on the bike with Bret and Scotty, and at times with UJB as well, it was just a gift to be together doing something that we've all done together so many times and that we loved. And it was awesome to be there with Bret, realizing that this isn't just something that he just hopped on and did anymore. This was something that took some energy and some effort and some focus, but there was nothing that was going to keep him from doing that, because that was something that he loved. It was also evident with everything he did that it took a little more energy and focus, but it never stopped him from being himself. I would always ask him, "So, how are you feeling today?" "Good," was the usual answer. "Pretty good," was another one. Every now and then, all right, maybe a little tired. For the most part, any one of us answering those questions honestly would have come across with something a lot less positive, but it never stopped Bret from getting up for that ride or going on that walk or going to that gym. He tried so hard to the very end to do what he could do for himself and those around him. And to me, that is an absolute exhibition of strength. To watch a friend, a good decades-long friend, face something like this, slowly losing strength, and where they are less able to communicate what you know is still there inside, was hard. I can only imagine how hard it was for his family who were with him all the time. And I mention this because I was constantly inspired by the grace with which Kathleen and the girls exhibited how they were handling this whenever I was over there. Or when Amy came over with Bret to watch an Avs game, and Zoe finishing high school and having to start college with all of this going on. You all have the same strength and grace that your dad had. And he'd be so proud. I know he was then, and I know he always will be. And he'll continue to pass that strength and grace on to you. It was amazing to watch. And Kathleen, I can only imagine how hard it is to go from partner to caregiver like you did. And you did it so well. I hope if I'm ever faced with that situation, that I can show that same grace and strength. To watch Bret take all of this in stride and to not get bitter or angry, but to do what he could and not get upset about what he could not do anymore was truly inspiring. If I were in his shoes, I am certain most of those around me would be wondering what the hell else other diagnosis I was afflicted with due to the frequent curse-filled verbal tirades that would have been unleashed from time to time. Never with Bret. Grace and strength all the way. And while there is some evidence to support my often used claim that that type of language and word combining can be helpful as a tool, a lever arm, a lubricant, or a sealant, while doing mechanical or home improvement tasks, they don't work well with other people. And to the end, Bret was concerned with everyone around him about how they felt, how they were doing, even more than how he was doing. And he kept it in check and continued on to the very last moment with true grace. In the last few weeks, I asked him if it was hard to be able to accept help in so many things after being so independent and dynamic for so long. And he replied, no. You realize there's nothing you can do but take the help. That's a profound statement because it's not easy sometimes to take help and to ask for help, especially when you're a strong and adventurous person as Bret was. And again, this just speaks to his grace to adapt to the situation as it was, to keep being himself, being gracious, accepting that other people cared about him and wanted to help him, and doing whatever he could and not worrying about what he could no longer do. I told him that I was so impressed with the grace he had shown throughout this journey and over the last year, and that he inspired me to try every day to show more grace in my life. And I think that's something we can all take away from Bret. This also reemphasized how much the relationships we all have, friends, family, and community, how they matter above all else. Our time together has no guarantees. And I think when thinking of Bret, let's all be sure that we let those around us in our lives know how much we appreciate them and try to remember to live with the strength and grace that Bret always showed when he was here with us on this earth.
My glasses already on. Hello, my name is Brad Frost. And Kathleen asked if I wanted to share my memories of Bret. I do. But I'm going to share lots of different slices of our lives that we lived together. Bret was my fellow girl dad, my dive buddy, my cycling partner, and my best friend. So I met Bret at High Peaks Elementary School, where our oldest daughters, Amy and Olivia, attended first grade together. And it was at one of those welcome back to school sessions. I remember thinking, who's the cool dude over there? He looked very different from the rest of us High Peaks dad crowd, who looked, well, like me. So Bret and I did all of the dad things. We helped our girls with their homework. We participated in all of the after-school activities, chauffeured the kids all over town. But I soon realized that Bret and I shared a love of being girl dads. I remember when Zoe, stop laughing. I remember when Zoe and Audrey played hair salon with Bret and I, adding lots of colorful hair clips, ties, bands, and bows to our hair. And let's face it, Bret's hair was much more fun to play with than mine was. I also remember coaching soccer with Bret for both Amy and Olivia's team, as well as Zoe and Audrey's team. And while we tried to teach proper soccer technique, team camaraderie. We could never really take it too seriously. I remember one time while coaching Amy and Olivia's soccer team, Bret had to make a rule. No chasing butterflies during the game. And while coaching Zoe and Audrey's team, one of their teammates, who won't be named, who seemed to love gymnastics more than soccer, inspired his rule: no cartwheels on the field during the game. Bret was my inspiration as the ultimate girl dad. So Bret was also my dive buddy. Bret's love of scuba diving came from his mom. He told so many diving stories that I was soon hooked and decided to get water certified myself. And then in 2012, Bret and Kathleen invited us on a spring break trip to Cozumel, Mexico, with another family of our close friends, the Franklins. And soon after, the name Frost Frankman was coined. We even had t-shirts that we made for this trip. It was also on this trip, during one of our surface interval or rests in between our dives, that Bret showed me hand gestures that are used to identify the marine life that we were going to see underground, because of course you can't talk to each other. So the sign for the splendid toadfish, shark, spiny lobster, and even the sign for the green moray eel that his brother Howard taught him. I won't share that one with you today. You'll have to ask Howard about that one. Bret was also my cycling partner. Bret's love of cycling was infectious, and we started riding road bikes together soon after we met. We were both huge fans of professional cycling, especially the Tour de France. I always looked forward to our weekend rides where we talked about our favorite riders and teams, who won the stage that day, who would be on the podium in Paris. And in 2014, our mutual love of cycling took us to Santa Rosa, California, when I convinced Bret to take our altitude-trained bodies to ride Levi's Gran Fondo, which is a bike ride that covered over 100 miles and 10,000 feet of climbing, all in a single day. This was the trip where I learned of Bret's family's love of fine wine and fine food, as he introduced me to his and Al's friends in the Napa Valley winemaking and restaurant industry. I also like to think that I introduced Bret to a truly Midwestern style of fine dining, as we discovered that a 2005 Le Meilleur de Chai from Rombauer Vineyards that we picked up on that day paired quite well with fully loaded baked potato skins from the Greasy Spoon Diner that was across the street from our hotel. Some might say that Bret liked riding with me due to our relative size. For you cycling fans, let's just say that I was the Big Maggie Magnus Backstedt to his Marco Pantani. Our favorite ride together was heading up to Jamestown. One of the best parts of this ride was descending down the James and left-hand canyons, where I would keep an eye on Bret in my little rear view camera on my helmet, making sure that he was still safely tucked in my generous slipstream as we hammered down winding canyon roads. I will never forget his smiling face in my mirror as we hit speeds he could never achieve on his own. Bret was my best friend. I can't begin to count how many times I rode to Jamestown together, chanting on the way up the hill, solving all the world's problems as we pedaled away. The best memories I have with Bret on the bike are when we talked about our families: Kathleen and Carrie, Amy and Olivia, Zoe and Audrey. Many of life's mysteries were discussed, problems were solved, and feelings were shared. Cycling together with Bret was the best form of therapy for me, for both of us. Yesterday, I rode to Jamestown by myself to reflect on my relationship with Bret and to think of all the things I wanted to share with you today. So many wonderful memories came flooding back. But the thing I missed most on my ride yesterday was seeing his smiling face of pure joy in my helmet mirror as we roared back down the canyon. Bret, we all miss you terribly. But I now realize that all I have to do is close my eyes to see you smiling down on me, on all of us, everywhere, every day.
Before I start, I want to thank all of you for being here. It's a testament to the love that he gave and the love he's giving back from all of you. I appreciate it. I know the family appreciates it as well. And I brought my glasses, but I did like 20 points so I could read it. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Howard, and Bret was my favorite brother. I was his favorite brother as well. Seems to be how it works when you only have one brother. Bret was loving, kind, and a considerate person. He loved his family, Kathleen, his wife, his two daughters, Amy and Zoe. He was a caring son to Alvin, and Arlene, may she rest in peace. He was the best brother anyone could ask for. Bret and I hung out together as kids through high school and part of college. Like all siblings, we had moments where we fought, but those were few and far between. We always made up. He loved to ski, bike, and rock climb. You've heard this all from Hannah, Dave, and Brad. He helped me improve my skiing, and he taught me how to rock climb in El Dorado Canyon. The first climb was the first two pitches he had me do. He had me top rope the Bastille, and then he and I went and did touch and go, where he was on the sharp end of the rope and had a flyer. I caught him, he got back up, and we finished the climb. We did some stupid things together. You'll figure, right? Mostly together, just him and I, but sometimes with a lot of his friends. The one that I remember most is one 4th of July, we decided to have Roman candle wars. So there we are with Roman candles and metal garbage cans as shields. Don't try that, please. I have so many stories, but with everybody else have already shared stories, I mean, come talk to me. I can share more stories with you. We were able to travel together often as kids, and even as we were as adults. As kids, we got to go to Disney several times. And that was before the all-inclusive ticket pricing. Back in those days, it was a ticket book, and you were looking for that coveted e-ticket. You know, there was only one of those in the book, and that was the Matterhorn ride. So we were able to go on scuba trips together, including one in Bonaire, where we went down to 110 feet to a garden of sea snakes. And I saw some eels on the way and showed him the sign. He and I traveled to Napa together to surprise my dad for his 80th birthday. We had so many fun adventures together. I will never forget our time together. Bret would help anyone if he had the ability. He cared about everyone he met. He wanted to make sure other people were taken care of before he ever worried about himself. Well, Bret was a unique person. He was one of a kind, and he'll be deeply missed by me, and I know everyone here. I believe Bret finally did something for himself in the end. He chose to leave this world on November 16th, 2023. And I feel he chose this as it was 28 years to the day that our mom passed away. I would like to leave you all with a poem that helped bring solace to me 28 years ago. And I hope it will do the same for all of us today. The poem is written by Anne Lindgrad Davidson, and it's titled, I'm Free. Don't grieve for me now, I'm free. I'm following the path that God laid for me. I took his hand when I heard him call. I turned my back and left it all. I could not stay another day to laugh, to love, to work or play. Tasks left undone must stay that way. I found that peace at the close of day. If my parting is left a void, then fill it with remembered joy. A friendship shared, a laugh, a kiss. Ah, yes, these things I too will miss. Be not burdened with times of sorrow. I wish you the sunrise and tomorrow. My life's been full. I've savored much. Good friends, good times, my loved ones' touch. If my time seems all too brief, don't lengthen it with undue grief. Lift up your heart, rejoice with me. God wanted me now. He set me free. May his memory be blessed to all of us.
Well, it seems to be the theme. I am completely overwhelmed by all the love and care and friendship and support of everybody being here and those who are also not here. If you haven't figured it out, I'm Kathleen. I was Bret's wife, his business partner, his friend, and his partner in crime. I am so honored that you're all here. Thank you. There's a few people that I really need to shout out to that helped me get through the past year. To the staff, and especially Dr. Poole, who is Bret's oncologist. He always had grace and an amazing sense of humor. It was amazing. The staff at Rocky Mountain Care Center, they were also so kind and so caring. And I'm gonna miss the Tootsie Rolls. They always had a jar of Tootsie Rolls. To my amazing daughters, Amy and Zoe. A huge shout out to Doug Williams, wherever you are. I don't know where you are. Or a couple people have alluded to Bret's nicknames for everybody's. So Dougie Fresh. He showed up almost every day for Bret, especially towards the end. And the love and care that he showed to him was amazing. He would take Bret to radiation treatment. He would come over and clean out our gutters. He would jumpstart a car when it wouldn't start. He taught my girls how to fix a flat tire. But most importantly, and I know he spoke to this and other people have as well, he would take Bret for bike rides. And that was Bret's love. He, even when he was so sick, and he just did a bike ride with them just a couple weeks ago, and it was only 20 minutes. But Bret came back and he was so happy to have done that with Doug. It was so important. He always looked forward to those bike rides, whether it was with Scotty B, with Doug, with JB, Karen, whoever, Brad, like he lived for those bike rides that made him feel normal and not sick. So thank you. It didn't matter how long or short the ride was, because he was able to be with you and he loved you all so very much. And to my brother Tom, I want to say thank you. He has been my rock. He came out very often, except for when he was on vacation. But most importantly, he was here towards the end when it was really, really hard. And he held my hand and Bret's and my girls and just got us through. So thank you, Tommy. You're my rock. To Jackie McKenna, who is the amazing supreme organizer. Like, I hope none of you ever need that person in your life, but if you do, Jackie is your person. She's also chief dog walker for our beloved dog, Maisie. When we couldn't get out to walk her, she would come and get our dog. In fact, she took her out this morning. And she also makes the best matzo ball soup out there. So thank you, and thank you for feeding our souls. To the Frost family, oh my God, like we were destined. Like we met, I think Brad alluded to how we all met. Amy, my daughter, was Olivia's person that they assigned in first grade when she came into school. Carrie and I met shortly thereafter and became fast friends. Brad and Bret also met and became fast friends. And our youngest daughters, Zoe and Audrey, had no chance, is what Carrie and I said. They were destined to be best friends as well. So thank you for being our family. To my father-in-law, Alvin, my brother-in-law, Howard, my sister-in-law, Lorraine, my niece, Tori, and nephew, Chandler, Bret loved you all so much. To my amazing nieces, Brooke, Blythe, Mackenzie, and Ariana, thank you. They came to my house yesterday and cleaned like nobody's business. So when you see how nice my house looked, thank them. To Scotty B, wherever you are, who always made the time to stop by and say hello and give a hug, or take Bret for a ride, or take him out to lunch, or take him in one of his mini 9 cars. Yeah, one of his mini cars for a ride. Or he would just sit and listen to music with them because they shared a deep love of music together. To all of our friends who kept us fed through this past year, not just physical food, but emotional food. You were there, and I thank you. You all of you who sent me funny Instagrams, who would call and just leave a message, because as you know, this was difficult. And a lot of times I just didn't want to talk, and you all understood that. So thank you for that space that you would call and you would leave a message, or you would send me a funny Instagram, or you would send me a heart emoji, and you have no idea how much that meant to me. That got me through some really bad days. So thank you, one and all. To each and every one of you, we felt your love, all of you, and your support, and you just made this journey bearable. So thank you. My oldest brother, Michael, said something to me the other day. He said, it must be so hard to lose the love of your life. And it is. And it will be. But at the same time, I feel so blessed to have been with Bret for 29 years. Turn the page. He was my soulmate. I waited 39 years until I married him. I waited for the right guy because he was my soulmate. We had a very successful outdoor business that we ran together for 28 years. We have raised 2 amazing, beautiful daughters that were his pride and my pride and joy. Bret lived long enough to see Amy graduate from his alma mater, DU, with honors. Zoe graduated from Fairview High School also with honors, and now she's also at DU as a freshman, keeping the tradition alive. My father-in-law, Al Fishman, also graduated from there, as did Bret. So 4th kid going through. Girls, Amy and Zoe, your dad was so proud of you. You were his love and his life. You brought him so much joy and happiness, plus a few sleepless nights. He loved you so big much. Bret had a full life. It may have been cut short, and we will miss him so very much, but his memory will live on. I hope all of you can find peace in knowing that you carry a piece of him with you in your memories of him. Be it in a smile shared, a song remembered, a perfect teleski on a fresh powder day, the changing of your flat tire when you're out on your mountain bike or road ride, the dancing of the leaves in the wind in the fall, a perfect cup of coffee, because as we all know, Bret was a coffee snob. The first snowfall and shoveling your walkway, or for you who are in those sunnier states, when you take a walk on the beach, look for that perfect seashell. In closing, I have one final thought, and this is from Winnie the Pooh, who said it best. How lucky am I to have had something so special that it makes saying goodbye so hard.
וישוב על הארץ כשהיה, והרוח תשוב אל Elohim אשר נתנה. The dust returns to the earth as it was. The spirit returns unto God who gave it.
Anyone who wishes to come forward and place earth into Bret's final resting place can do that. This is considered an altruistic act of kindness. No expectation that Bret is going to be doing this for us. And in Jewish tradition, participating in a funeral is considered one of the great mitzvot, one of the great good deeds, commandments that our tradition has.
I'm not a girl.
Well done.
We have a beautiful tradition at a Jewish funeral where we say that God is the righteous judge. It's called Tziduk Hadin. And it mentions that even if we live to 100, it's but a fleeting moment in God's timeless universe. But also that a good name is better than fine oil. Bret certainly had a good name. So I'm going to do selections from this. Hatsutamim polo ki chol rachab mishpat. El emunah v'enavel tzadik v'yashar hu. Hatsutamim bichol po'al mi omalo matifal. Hashalit ematev memit mechai morit she'ol v'ya'al. Adam im ben shana yeh o 1000 shanim yichyeh. Ma yitron lo k'lo haya yeh. Baruch dayan hamet memit umechayeh. Gedol hay tzavra balil yashenecha v'tumchot al kol darchei bnei adam. Latet leish kidracha v'chifrim alalav. Lahagid ki ashar Adonai tzuri v'lo avlata bo. Adonai natan ve'Adonai lakach. Kishem Adonai mevorach. Ve'atav di'adolam.
We're going to conclude the formal funeral service with the recitation of the mourner's Kaddish. And we're going to do another mourner's Kaddish right after the conclusion. I'll explain why we're going to do that in just a moment. But the mourners are going to say the Kaddish, and we're all going to answer Amen or Amen in Hebrew at the appropriate time. I'll guide you as to when that should happen. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba. Amen. Bi'alma divra chirute. Bi'amlich malchute. B'chayechon u'v'yomechon. U'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'yimeru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam u'lomei ol maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei d'kudsha b'richu le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata ta'amiran b'yolma v'yimeru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael yimeru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael yimeru amen. Before we have the memorial prayer chanted by our cantor, I'm just going to find, when we visit the Shiva house, when we visit the house of mourning, and that's going to start immediately after the interment is finished. And today it's going to go from about 4 or a little later till 8. And tomorrow evening, Monday, Tuesday evening, it's going to go from 5 to 8. And I forgot what we said about Wednesday. Wednesday also 5 to 8. And then the family will be in mourning privately on Thursday and Friday. And the Shiva is going to end. The mourning period will officially end on Saturday. So, and there's no official visitation then, but I'm sure there are people who are going to want to pay their respects. But when you go to the house of mourning, we would encourage people to share impressions and ideas and maybe even something that they learned from Bret. As we know, he was a teacher, and judging by what we've heard, he seemed to have been the consummate educator. And I don't mean teaching lessons that are found in books. He taught lessons that are not found in books. He taught lessons of kindness, love, and decency. And I wanted to share a teaching that are going to give us all a chance to hear the words of the Kaddish one more time. And it comes from a very small but very mighty volume of the Talmud, which is rabbinic commentary on the Torah itself, on the Hebrew Bible. And the unusual thing about this particular book is, unlike all the other books of the Talmud, it does not contain a single law. All it is sage advice. Literally, say the advice of the sages. Sage advice as to how to learn and what we should be looking for. So the verse or the paragraph that I wanted to share comes from the second chapter. And of course, when you want to find it, you can't really find it. But I'm just going to ad-lib it, and you'll trust me that I'm saying it the right way. There's a famous rabbi. Oh, here it is. Very good. There's a famous rabbi. His name is Yochanan ben Zakkai. He was the architect of post-Roman destruction Jerusalem and the architect of Jewish life as we know it today. He began its evolution. And he had a number of students, and he once posed the following question to them. He said, Se'u ura'u, go out and see, experience, go out there and, again, not in the books. This is go out and engage with people. Ezo hi derech yeshara, what is the best way? What is the straight path? Sheyidbak ba ha'adam, that a person should try to follow. One of the 5 students, his name is Eliezer, said, Ayin tova, develop a good eye. That either means know the consequences of what you're going to do, or develop an eye for the good. We'll leave it up to you to decide which one you like better. A rabbi whose name was Joshua said, Chaver tov, be a good friend. Rabbi Yossi used to say, Shachen tov, be a good neighbor. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Simon used to say, Haroeh et hanolad, to always know what's going to happen a few moves down in the chess game. Rabbi Elazar Omer, a rabbi named Elazar, said, Lev tov, develop a good heart. Amar lahem, the rabbi who asked the students to go out and survey the countryside and see what would people think, he said, Roeh ani, I have seen at Divrei Elazar ben Arach, the words, the answer given by that last student, Elazar, midivrechem, is a better answer than all of the others. Shabichlal devarav divrechem, because included in his answer of having a good heart are all of your answers, including being a good person, being a good friend, being a good neighbor, having an eye for the good, or seeing the consequences of our actions, having a good heart. We've heard from many people today, and it's not a lie to say that our own Bret Fishman, we had Leib ben Chasha for many years, for many months, that he was on our get well list, our healing list. That's Leib, the son of his mother's name, Chasha. Leib means heart, and he really did have an amazing heart. Right, thank you. The B will have mercy on me. His heart encompassed all the other qualities. We've heard them all today. He was a best friend. He was a great father and husband, a great neighbor. And he understood, maybe he didn't always see the consequences of his actions from what we determined today, because he did have a very adventurous kind of spirit and took chances that maybe not everybody would. But all in all, it's all wrapped up in the most wonderful and beautiful human being that you all knew as Bret Fishman. I'm not sure what nickname he had, what nickname you may have given him, but whatever that nickname is, you'll talk more about that over the next few days as you visit the home. And these words are going to accompany Bret on his journey. And when we say the Kaddish, it's a prayer that has not a mention of death in it. It's really a prayer about affirming life. And it's affirming the spiritual power that, even with it in the world, still needs to make room for the passing of people, even people as beautiful as Bret. When we say Yitkadal v'Yitkadash, may God's name be made great, the mourners are saying this in front of all of us. I'm sure many of them would rather sit and not say these words. They may not really believe these words, but I'm sure all of us may have other stories that will support and comfort them and give them the strength to continue to praise God, to continue to think about this spirit and things that are spiritual that are guiding us each and every day. So in your presence, having just taught the words of one of our greatest rabbis, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, we're going to one more time offer the words of the mourner's Kaddish, and then the cantor will chant the memorial prayer. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba v'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon v'yomechon u'v'chayei v'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'yimeru amen Yehei shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam u'lomei olmaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei l'kudsha b'richu le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiran v'olma v'yimeru amen Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru amen Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru amen. May the one who makes peace in heaven make peace for us, for all Israel, for the entire world. And we all say,
I'm always amazed by the names that our parents give us. A Jewish boy is given his name at their bris when they're 8 days old. And they have no control over what is going to happen to their life. But Bret had a middle name in Hebrew, which is Netanel. Netanel means gift of God. So he was the heart that was a gift of God. Pretty cool. Male rachamim shochet b'meromi ha'metzeh menucha nechona tachat Kanfei Ashechina B'mahalot Kedoshim U'Diorim Kezah Rakia Mazehirim Eden Ishma Lev Netanel Ben Avraham Noach Vechasha Shehalach Le'olamo Began Eden Tehei Menuchato Ana Balarachamim Hastireh Beseder Kenafech Leolamim Utzeror Biteror Achayim Et Nishmato Adonai Hu Nachalato V'yanuach b'shalom Mishkavo V'nomar Amen.
O God, exalted and full of compassion, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure. To Leib Nitzanel, the son of Avraham Noach and Chasha, who now rests in his eternal home. Master of mercy, we beseech you to remember all the worthy and righteous deeds he performed in the land of the living. May his soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. The Lord is certainly his portion. May he ever rest in peace. And let us all say, Amen. Amen. We're going to form a double line under the direction of Jim Cohen. Just want to let everyone know, you might not need to know this, but the mourning is going to take place at Kathleen's home, 4795 Shawnee Place in Boulder. Again, that'll start 4 this afternoon, so 8. And then the subsequent days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 5 in the afternoon or 5 in the evening until 8 p.m. Your presence there and sharing impressions you have and memories would be a source of great comfort and a fitting tribute to Bret's memory. As the family makes its way through back to their cars, we ask everyone to repeat the following words after me, both in Hebrew and then in English. Hamakom Yenachem Etchem B'toch Sha'ar Avele Tzion V'Yerushalayim. And now in English, may God comfort you among all who mourn in Zion and for Jerusalem. And we all say, Amen. This concludes our service. The grave is going to be filled, and you may return to your cars. Thank you all for being here today.
Yeah. But you don't have to work. Davis and Connie. Yeah. Back up. You have a great voice.
Here, let me carry stuff. You can be able to walk. Okay.
You going the other side?
Yeah.
Thanks, boys.
Hi there. I'm Debbie. We'll see you in a few weeks.
Well, now we're back in town from.
There you are. You're back. You had a wonderful time.
And then I turn around with them.
Of course you did.
We're back. Okay. Next time in New Zealand.
We'll probably go to the wine country one time before I see you too, probably.
No.
All right.
Not this year.
Okay. All right.
Our credit cards, because it's only already November.
That's right, we had all that shit last year to go.
Credit cards got beat up enough as it is already.
All right, we'll see you in a
Good to
couple
see you,
weeks.
Julie.
Bye.
Nice to meet you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
bye-bye. I appreciate that. Nice service, weather lucked out. The other day, so there's no hurry on it, so. Okay, take care.